Aliens, time travelers, espers. By the time I started high school, I stopped believing in them. But then he came into my life. At least, I think that's how I met him. Remind me to ask him about it later, my memory's a bit fuzzy. Hey, I'm Penguin Truth, and welcome to Otaku Evolution, and today we'll be talking about the sheer phenomenon that is Haruhi Suzumiya. Film critic Nathan Rabin once coined the phrase, manic pixie dream girl, to describe a trope wherein a bubbly, quirky young woman enters the life of a schlubby, downbeat young man to teach them to embrace life, shallowly, as basically wish fulfillment of writers and the male viewers alike. Rabin came to eventually regret coining this, as many took to naming all quirky female characters a blow into people's lives by that term, even though it didn't always apply. The manic pixie dream girl only exists to further the male lead's growth and no other purpose. They have no real goals for themselves, they're mostly just a plot device. The question is, dear viewers, is Haruhi Suzumiya a manic pixie dream girl, or is she something else? Leo Tolstoy once said, "All great literature is one of two stories. A man goes on a journey, or a stranger comes into town." Ignoring the gendering of that statement, Nagaro Tanagawa's series of light novels about a young man only known as Kyon, whose life is changed when a girl named Haruhi Suzumiya enters it, is mostly the latter example. In other words, a stranger comes to town. Beginning high school, Kyon is rattled by a strange girl named Haruhi, who sits behind him in class. She's brilliant, beautiful, and athletic, but nothing really interests her, except the supernatural. She longs to meet an alien, a time traveler, or an esper, basically a psychic, and is disinterested in ordinary high school life. But Kyon becomes fascinated with her, and she ends up pulling him into her idea to start a new school club so she can seek out the weird and wonderful.
First tell me why I'm the one who's got to help you set up a club that's your idea in the first place, and you can let go of the tie now.
I'll find us a room and some members, and I want you to personally handle all the paperwork that needs to be turned into the school.
Why don't you tell me what kind of club it's gonna be?
Who cares about that right now?
Eventually, Haruhi does find an alien, a time traveler, and an esper. But while they're fine revealing that to Kyon, Haruhi can never know about it, or the world faces dire consequences. The animated TV series, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, based mostly on the first book, was created by Kyoto Animation and aired in 2006. It aired in a non-linear order, with parts of the main story intermixed with side stories from short story collections, culminating in the final part of the book as the final episode. It was very, very popular. People went insane for it. Maybe it was the dance. In her bid for a worthwhile school club, Haruhi annexes the room for the literature club and its sole occupant, Yuki Nagato, a bookish girl, kidnaps upperclassman Mikuru Asahina, whom she treats like her personal dress-up doll, and recruits an unnervingly polite transfer student named Itsuki Koizumi. Haruhi basically does whatever she feels like to any and all of her proclaimed minions, up to and including involving them in horrible blackmail, such as her acquiring a computer from the hapless geeks in the computer club.
What are you doing?
One more shot!
What are you doing?
I have photographic evidence of blatant sexual harassment. If you don't want any of these pics to show up all over campus, hand over a computer and be quick about it.
This is ludicrous. You forced me to touch your breasts. I'm innocent, I tell you.
Wonder how many people are gonna listen to your side of the story, you sexual harasser.
Using Mikuru as part of her sexual capital, Haruhi looks to spread the word of her SOS brigade, while it looks like the members are the ones who need their ship saved. But they all dutifully, if somewhat reluctantly, follow Haruhi's directives. Why, you ask? Well, it's complicated, and it varies from person to person. Yuki, for example, because she's a human interface of a data integration thought entity.
Throughout the universe, it is common for organic life forms to develop a consciousness. Human beings from Earth were the only creatures whose consciousness evolved into intellect. The entity carefully yet thoroughly continued its observations. 3 years ago, they noticed an abnormal flare-up of data on the surface of the planet. This explosion of information started from one area of a bow-shaped archipelago, then quickly enveloped the entire planet and surged further outward into space. In the center of all this was... For the 3 years since, multiple investigations and observations have occurred regarding Haruhi Suzumiya.
Mikuru, on the other hand, is a time traveler who came back to observe Haruhi's effect on time. She has to make sure not to pollute the timeline, so she can't reveal herself to Haruhi. She can't even really tell Kyon that much about her mission, because, as she puts it...
Classified.
Can you tell me what's going to happen to Haruhi?
That's classified.
Well, if you're from the future, you already know what happens, right?
That's classified.
Well then, why don't you just tell Haruhi all this stuff?
That's classified. I'm sorry, but I'm not authorized to say anything right now.
Itsuki, on the other hand, is a real talker. He is second only to Kyon himself at exposition, and only because this is from Kyon's perspective. Itsuki is part of an agency of people with extraordinary powers that only manifest when dimensional pockets called closed spaces appear. They pop up when Haruhi is distressed or bored, and have the potential to overwrite reality itself. So Itsuki's group has to defeat the giants that wreak havoc in closed spaces to combat that. Itsuki's agency believes that Haruhi is basically God-made flesh, but she can never find out.
She has the power to turn anything she wishes for into a reality.
Oh, come on, you can't seriously believe that's true.
Miss Suzumiya was positive that aliens existed. And then she wished that there was such a thing. That's why Yuki Nagato's here. She wanted to meet people from the future, so she wished for that too. And that's why Mikuru Asahina showed up here. And as for myself, she wished for espers to be a reality, and lo and behold, here I am at your service, sir.
Like I said, how do you know all this anyway?
So, what do you do when a godlike powerful being's taken the form of a demanding teenage sociopath who, if dissatisfied, may destroy the world without knowing it? Well, you try your best to cure her boredom. And that's just what they do in this show, regularly. From taking part in a baseball tournament, solving a murder mystery on an island during a storm, making a cheesy low-budget movie for a festival, battling the computer club in an epic video game grudge match, and whatever other activity Haruhi has in mind. Oh, and also there's a concert. Because of course Haruhi's a great musician.
Blazing on by, there's nothing more that I can do. I'm sorry that I'll never be with you again.
While a lot of this seems mostly like good fun, there's plenty of real danger to Kyon, such as when Yuki's backup interface, Ryoko Asakura, lures Kyon into a trap, trying to kill him to see how Haruhi would react. Or when the brigade's website attracts a giant camel cricket that has to be battled to save the computer club president. It makes a bit more sense in context. Or when Haruhi gets fed up and is subconsciously overriding all of reality, choosing only Kyon to remain with her as the rest of the world changes, and he has to give her a little bit of action to tear down the closed space. Women, am I right? Always putting up giant overriding realities so that you have to kiss them. That's happened to me at least twice. Ladies just can't get enough of me. If that wasn't bad enough, in the second season of the show, she had the gang trapped in a time loop where they repeated the last week of summer vacation thousands of times. This was the infamous Endless 8 story arc where Kyoto Animation actually did 8 separate episodes of basically the same thing. Now, I would say from an abstract artistic perspective, it was very bold and unique that they did such a thing. It means the viewer begins to feel the stress from the repetition the way the characters begin to as they come to realize it again and again. Yuki, for instance, remembers every iteration. Haruhi doesn't remember any. It's possible that this is what sets up Yuki's actions in the movie, but we'll get to that another time. The problem, of course, is that from an entertainment perspective, it was a dreadful waste of time. There were plenty of Haruhi stories that remain unadapted to this day, because they just had to do this experiment. And watching from week to week was really frustrating. Eventually, Kyon realizes that Haruhi just wanted to help everyone with their summer homework, as she had finished her own long ago. The regret of not being of use to them made her warp time without knowing it. But Kyon breaks the cycle by asking her for assistance and time returns to normal. Actually, not a bad story, but 8 episodes of the cycle is asking too much. Oh crap, am I covering the second season too? Did I just cover the second season? Well, while I'm at it. Kyon goes back in time to meet a young Haruhi who's sneaking into her school to write strange symbols to communicate with aliens. Kyon draws the symbols with a line marker while Haruhi supervises him. It's dark, so she can't make out who he is, and he gives the name John Smith. Again, this will come into play in the movie. Most of the rest of the season is Haruhi abusing the hell out of her club to get that movie made for the school festival. Such as this lovely moment.
Shut up! It's important to me! And I can treat her like a toy if I want to! What is it? What is your problem anyway, huh?
This is the backstory to the movie played at the very beginning of the TV series, The Adventures of Mikuro Asahina. Aspects of it parallel the truth Haruhi can't be in on, even as she makes a movie about it. It's an odd episode for the series to begin on for the uninitiated, but rewatches elicit a greater appreciation. The big question might be, instead of, is Haruhi a manic pixie dream girl, why do people love Haruhi if she does these terrible things? Why do I love Haruhi if she is self-centered, controlling, and almost completely shameless? What's wrong with this girl? Is she some kind of maniac? Is Haruhi really wish fulfillment? Do I personally want some conceited, self-absorbed, possessive, intrusive, boundary-blind girl to come into my life and sweep me into a tornado of bizarre, dangerous adventures? Well, yeah, maybe. Most people lead unremarkable lives and lack the drive to improve on that. But is Haruhi a mere agent of Kyon's story? Just a cipher for the male desire of having a wind sweep in and change their lives? I don't really think so. Haruhi may seem at times to simply be a plot device for Kyon to react to. In fact, the hook of Haruhi as a series relies largely on Kyon reacting snarkily to the various improbable characters and events he comes across. It's a bit like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series in that way. But that's just my point. Haruhi is no more a manic pixie dream girl, or rather, she's no more an ephemeral sprite riding a wave of crazy into his life than any of the other characters in this series. Nor are we entirely meant to sympathize with her every whim, because she gets called out for her behavior every now and then. But she also does have a generous, caring, well-meaning core to her. Haruhi really believes that she's spreading fun and joy throughout people's lives, even though she has trouble understanding why it doesn't always work. And let's be honest, folks, we enjoy Kyon's suffering as much as Arthur Dent's, because he wasn't looking for this. And what's more, unlike Arthur, ultimately, Kyon's enjoying himself, even if he doesn't like to admit it. As for Haruhi, there's an explanation for why she's so determined to make such a big splash. The show doesn't use it as an excuse, just a reasoning.
Up till then, I always thought that I was, kind of a special person. It was fun to be with my family. I had fun with my classmates, and the school that I was going to, it had just about the most interesting people anywhere. But that night, I realized it wasn't true. All the stuff we did during class that I thought was so fun and cool was probably happening just like that in classes in other schools all over Japan. There was nothing special about my school at all.
The irony is that Haruhi's fear of being small and like everyone else is completely contrary to the true nature she can never be in on. But even if she can't know she's surrounded by an alien, a time traveler, and an Esper, she knows that her SOS brigade is unique, at least among her peers. Maybe it doesn't excuse some of the extreme lengths she goes to, but it certainly makes for some damn interesting scenarios.
He looks like a child, but he's pretty subtle on the inside. A powerful ally all over town.
Well, it's usually pretty interesting. Shut up. It's far from a perfect series. Sometimes it seems like they tried too hard to have their cake and eat it too when it comes to the moe elements. It wants us to laugh at the ridiculous contrivances of its transparent moe elements, but without saying that much about moe itself, except, yep, that sure does bring in the fans. Arguably, it makes it just as guilty as any other stock moe girl anime. But I think it more than makes up for that with its interesting blend of science fiction, comedy, and a little bit of mystery, all driven by the character interactions. Any of these elements on their own wouldn't be nearly enough to captivate the audience, but somehow the Haruhi series has this charm to it that keeps Haruhi and the franchise itself from being insufferable. No, more than that, it makes it all the better, even when it celebrates Haruhi's enormous ego.
I get it now. I do what Haruhi tells me to do, and then I go out and complain about it. There's no difference between me and Taniguchi. I mean, I got so mad at the stuff he was saying just now, but how's it any different from what I've said before? Damn it! Taniguchi, you bastard! Thanks to you, I've realized something, and I'm not happy about it!
So that's the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I could probably talk about it for hours, but I think I've summarized its merits, and the merits of Haruhi herself. And for the record, no, I don't really believe that Haruhi is a true manic pixie dream girl because of the way they position her role as a scenario creator for all the characters, not just Kyon. Maybe I'll get to reviewing the movie sometime. But before that, I'll be taking some time off, hitting the beach, and we'll return with a mid-season review of all the English dubs I've covered so far this year. Until then, this is Penguin Truth, and I'm mostly harmless. See ya!
Is that it?
That's it. 6 by 9, 42. I always said there was something fundamentally wrong about the universe.